Spiel 21 opens less than a week from when I'm recording this video, so it seemed like a good time, better late than never, to record a preview of a game debuting at that show in Essen, Germany, The Siege of Rundar by Reiner Knizia and Spanish publisher Ludonova. This title is marketed as a cooperative deck-building game, so you might immediately have questions as to how it compares to The Quest for El Dorado, a deck-building game that Ravensburger published in 2017. You can see immediately that The Siege for Rundar is larger. It does not come packaged with a copy of The Quest for El Dorado inside, despite the visual suggestion here. The two are very different, partly because of the cooperative nature of The Siege of Rundar, but also the subject matter and the nature of deck building, which is very different from El Dorado and much more in line with Mystic Vale, a John D. Clare design published by Alderac, in that the size of your deck does not change over the course of the game, stays the same, but you will be upgrading that deck, ideally, over the course of play. Each player starts with the same deck of 12 cards, with the deck consisting of 6 pairs of identical cards. 10 of these cards show your particular dwarven character, with that character also being depicted on your discard token, use of which I'll explain in a moment, and your standee that will move about the fortress, trying to defend it from attacks by goblins, trolls, and orcs, with you having 2 of those orcs in your deck. That is not a good thing. Each dwarven card has a speed in the upper left corner, 2. That is, you can use a card to move 1 or 2 spaces within the fortress, or you can use a card for one of the actions depicted on it. All the cards in the top row show a resource that you can collect, wood, leather, or metal, and if you are in the appropriate workshop, you can play this card and collect 1 resource of that type. This card allows you to collect a resource of your choice, but again, you must be in the proper workshop in order to pick up that resource. These 6 cards allow you to roll 1 die in close combat against someone who is attacking the fortress. These cards give you 1 long-range attack or 1 digging power. To play, you are going to shuffle the deck. Only 12 cards. You have to take some care. You cannot riffle shuffle easily with 12 cards. You then take 2 cards, put them aside under your discard token, take a hand of 5 cards, and on your turn, you will play all 5 of these cards. Whether you use them or not, they will be discarded and then gone. So those will be placed on the discard pile at the end of your turn. We'll talk about use of those in a bit. And then you're going to draw the next 5 cards. And then when you're done with that, you shuffle everything again. So you never know whether you're going to get 0, 1, or 2 orcs during the course of 2 consecutive rounds. That is important because each time an orc appears, let's see what we get this time. We get 1 orc. Each time an orc appears, you are going to draw the top card from this orc deck to determine what is coming at the castle. So potentially you will have no orcs in your deck over the 2 rounds, or sorry, in your hands over the 2 rounds, and not draw from this, or you will draw 2. This deck is a timer in the game. If you would draw the last card, then you lose. So the deck consists of 5 levels ranging from 1 to 5, and cards get more difficult with more challenges to handle. So if I have this orc, the first thing I do is I turn this over and I see that I must place an orc on this side of the fortress, and then this arrow shows that all the orcs move toward the center of the fortress. I then discard this card and I take my turn with whatever is left. Now, you are going to upgrade cards over the course of the game, but you can never upgrade an orc. You will always have 2 orcs in the deck, and you have to keep that in mind with everything that you are doing over the course of the game. That little twist of going through your entire deck every 2 rounds but not seeing 2 of your cards is a great feature in this cooperative game, because again, you are trying to defend a fortress from attacking creatures, and if you see the orcs every time you go through the deck, then you will have at most 48 turns. The game collectively among all the players, 1 to 4 players, will last 48 turns, and then on the 49th turn, someone will pick up their deck and presumably have their 2 orcs, and you're done immediately because as soon as you draw the last card from the deck, finished. You lose the game. So at most you have 48 turns, but possibly you have many more. And now there's 2 ways to look at this. You can look at this as, I got the orcs in my hand. That means I got robbed and I didn't get the things that I could have had. That stinks. This luck, it's terrible. Or you look at it the other way where the orcs didn't show up and instead you have 5 cards you can use on the first pass through the deck. And so, okay, I've got 5 of the 7 cards still coming. Maybe the orcs are in there, maybe not. If I pick them up again, maybe there's only 1 orc, maybe there's no orcs, and it's a bonus. You get extra actions that you wouldn't have normally. So you can look at this 2 ways. The negative way of saying, I got robbed and I didn't get the thing I want, especially once you start upgrading your cards to get better things. I really needed this particular tool on this round or next round. I don't get access to it. Maybe I won't even get access to it in future rounds. I'm just robbed of that. That's possible. That's the negative way of looking at it all. Or the positive way, sometimes I don't see the orcs and I get extra stuff available to me. I have bonus things that I've used that I've planned for by building up my deck over time, and now I can do much more than I initially thought I could. Let's get into more details of the game so you understand the possibilities available. Here are the components of the Siege of Rundar set up for a solitaire game. The only changes based on player count would be the number of characters that start in the center of the board. Everyone would have their own figure that starts here, and everyone would have their own deck shuffled and ready for play. I'll just leave my cards on the table instead of keeping them in my hand and give a few examples of what goes on. First things on a turn, well, there is a step 0, but I'm going to skip that for the moment. First thing, look and see whether you have any orc cards in your hand. If you do, you discard them and draw the top card of the orc deck. And these cards, at least at the beginning stages, place an orc outside the walls or have orcs advance on the fortress. So you have the layout here with the 3 towers. There's a tunnel up top here. We'll talk about that later. And you see that this orc gets placed right here outside the walls. Not a threat at the moment. Nothing you need to worry about in particular at this time. But, of course, things will be moving in towards you. Now, you're going to play cards from your hand. You can use a card for speed to move, and movement is to adjacent spaces. So this is 1, 2. To move up onto the tower, that's 1. To move down onto the wall, that's 1. And you can move from a wall through the tower to another wall, that's 1 as well. So to get from a tower to the center space takes 3 movement, which means you would have to spend 2 of your cards to do so. And that will be an impediment to many things that you were trying to do. Again, you start in the center. I could spend this card for 2 movement to go to the metal foundry. I have 2 cards that give me metal. Maybe I want to spend those 2 to get to metal, and I can get that only in the foundry if there are no orcs present. And then I take those resources and I place them on one of the upgrade cards. You start with 5 random upgrade cards from the easy deck. These are the least powerful upgrades, but they are the cheapest to get. You adjust the upgrade board based on the player count. So with 2 players, which I forgot to flip over before deciding to do a solitaire game in my example. Let's just flip that over. Show you how that works. Well, with 2 players, you have a base cost of 2 resources of one type, and then the cards themselves have a cost. With 3 players, it's only 1 of each resource. With 4 players, it's nothing extra because you will want many different upgrades spread across all the players' decks. And with 1, well, the cost is the same as in a 2-player game. So you place the resources on one of the cards. So perhaps this foundry here that needs 2 metal and 1 leather. This needs only 1. I could place 1 and 1 if I want to do that, or I could place 2 on here. Let's go ahead and do that. I still have 1 card in hand that I could get another metal for, or I can move and try to set up for the next turn, assuming that I'm going to get the right cards in my deck. So I look at my new hand. I've got an orc card, so I did get both orcs this time through the deck. This card adds an orc outside this wall, and then the arrow shows that all orcs in play advance. So they're going to climb up on the walls. In future rounds, if they advance further, they'll go into the workshops, which keeps you from getting the resources while the orcs are there. If orcs advance to the center area, they each take a piece of gold and then leave. Now, gold is another timer in the game. If you run out of gold when the last piece of gold is taken, you lose the game. Orcs are another way to lose the game. If the 10th orc is placed on the board somewhere, you lose the game. And that's a running theme for all the ways to lose. Whenever the last of something goes, you're done. The last gold done, the last card done, the last orc done. Well, not the last troll. We'll talk about those in a bit. Put that back there. Gold is a timer. That's the only thing you use it for other than hiring mercenaries, which give you a one-shot action. Each of those cards costs 2 gold, and when you use it, you flip it face down, and it's done. So you don't want to spend gold freely on these, because then you will cut in half the amount of time you have available should orcs get to the center. Sometimes you just want the orc to get to the center. Fine, take the gold, get away, so you go back to the pool and you don't lose due to running out of orcs. Okay, let's get back to my turn. I can get a leather. Actually, I can get 2 leather. If I put leather here, this is going to complete this anvil. And I can put this on this blade, on this shovel. Sure, we'll go here. So I spin that and that. Now, when you have completed an upgrade by having all of the necessary resources on it, you can choose to discard a card in your hand, or rather, remove it from the game, and you replace it with the upgraded item. So, if I had thought about it a little more in terms of what I was doing, maybe I would have put 1 metal here and then gotten 2 leather, and now I could get this special digging tool to replace this digging tool, although I would give up a crossbow action in the process. Everything that you upgrade is typically going to cost you something as well. For example, if I do decide to get this, well, I put the resources back in the pool, I take this card, and I remove something from the game. Either I lose some digging and crossbow power, the long range attack ability, or I'm going to get rid of one of my ways to get wood, which is a problem because, again, you have only 2 of these and then 2 of anything, but fine, I'll do this. And then I could spend this movement, and now I'm in here, and I can get 3 steel and do that. This gets used immediately, which is great. I did not have to pick it up that turn, but I did. I now shuffle all my cards, prepare for the next round. This does not get replaced immediately. It stays empty until one player finishes their turn in the center of the playing area. So now we've got these cards. I didn't get the upgrade again, or the special one, but I have no orcs as well. I have, whoops, forgot about these guys here. I put them back completely when they should be on the wall. If I want, I could spend a movement card to go up here, and now I can attack orcs. If I want, I can spend 1 or 2 cards because I have 2 close range attacks. Let's say I use 2. For each card that you use, you get 1 close range attack, although some cards will let you roll more dice. You can roll at most 5 dice. You can see the different sides on the dice here. There are 2 crossbow sides for long range attacks, 2 with a single hit, and then a 2-hit and 3-hit side. So I roll 2 dice. If you get 2 hits, then you kill an orc. So there you go. 1 orc is done. The only benefit is that orc is no longer there. Those extra hits, nothing happens. In theory, I could have just rolled 1 die and saved a card, but if I had rolled a crossbow or a single hit, then I would get nothing, and if I spend another card, well, that's a brand new attack. I can't add the 1 hit I had to what's going here. So you are faced with the dilemma all the time of possibly overpaying to get rid of something, or paying too little and it just sticks around because you didn't do anything. Always a challenge. All right, another thing. I can move 2, 1, 2, and I will use this pick to remove a piece of rubble. Now, the game comes with 12 pieces of rubble, and you can use 6, 8, 10, or 12, depending on whether you want an easy, medium, difficult, or I think heroic game is their term for it. I remove a piece of rubble. That rubble leads into your actual victory condition because you are stuck in this fortress being attacked by creatures, and you have pretty much accepted that they are going to overrun the castle. Eventually, you must leave. However, the tunnel is blocked with rubble, and you must clear out all of that rubble, and when you do, you immediately remove one piece of the tunnel. And inside that tunnel are 2 goblin tiles that are a little hard to grab. There are 4 goblin tiles of each number 1 to 5. You turn over, you pick 2 of them at random during setup. You put the goblins out in play, and now you must do something based on the tokens that you turn over. In this case, I must fight this guy, and it takes 2 hits at the same time to remove him. This guy is just collecting resources, and if I get 2 resources, instead of putting them on the upgrade cards, I can instead give them to this goblin, and he's happy. He's just trying to do something at his house, and I help him out and he leaves. He's not a bad goblin. He's just in my way. So, take the next turn, and here we go. More orcs. So, this one, add an orc, and then infiltrate, and add an orc, and infiltrate. And this guy takes gold and leaves. This one moves in here. These cards are gone, and now I continue. I can try to attack this guy. I can go somewhere. I have a wild, so I can get 2 metal, get rid of this guy immediately, or can't get wood because this guy's here. Maybe I attack him. Maybe I want him to go away. Let's say I use these 2. I'm gonna use 1. No, that's a 1/3 chance. Let's use 2. And it still didn't work, which often happens, which is frustrating. But I can spend my last card to move to the center, and if you end your turn in the center of play, then you refill the upgrade cards here. You can choose to draw from any deck. So I can draw an easy one again. Okay, this is a magic spear. Some cards give you infinite movement, and when that happens, you can play the card, move, and then use the action on the card. So this is fairly weak in that it has only a crossbow, only a pick, instead of your starting cards, which have each of those things on there, but you can move and then use it. This one as well, you can move and then get leather or do a close range attack. Instead of getting that card, maybe I want a medium difficulty, or I put the cards back in the wrong place after I move things around. A medium difficulty. And here we go. This gives you 2 wood as 1 action, and 2 dice on a close attack, but it costs you 5 resources to get. So other cards that you might have from here. Let's just move stuff aside at the moment. You have close and long range attack. You have a special shovel that digs even better than this one that's on fire. Cool. All right, you got some tongs that give you 2 of any type of resource. So expensive cards, for example, now this requires 8 resources to get, but it gives you lots of options, which is very important as the game progresses. This one, again, costs 8, and all it is digging. But that's essential because you must go through all 5 pieces of tunnel and then get rid of those last goblins, and now you have cleared the way completely, and you can leave and win. That is the only winning condition, is to clear the tunnel, clear out all the goblins, because there's 2 goblins waiting under each, and then you win. So that's great, but super expensive. Also costs 6 metal. If it ended up here, it would cost 8 metal. You have only 10 of each resource, and if a resource is out, then it's out. It will be somewhere on here or waiting atop a goblin to take it. There is no more, and you would have to resolve something before you can then apply the resource to that other card. It's a crowbar that gets you 3 of any resource, and 4 crossbow bolts. So crossbows do not initially seem awesome because you have to use a crossbow, go onto one of the tower spaces. If you go on this tower, it attacks either of these 2 outside areas. This tower, these 2, this one, only this one, so this place is terrible and you'll probably never go here. But you attack orcs out here, but there are other things that come up in the deck. Once you get into the level 2 cards, that is after the first 10 of these cards, you will start seeing the siege tower. And if you flip the siege tower on your turn, it goes in front of your space. So essentially everyone has a side on the castle. I only played with 2 players. That's why you need this one. Because if I'm sitting here, the siege tower may end up on this side of the fortress. In which case you must go here. So the siege tower will go here, and if at the start of your turn the siege tower is still here, at the start of your next turn, the siege tower is still here, well, then it is going to deliver a troll into the tunnel. I guess the troll was hiding inside, slipped in with the siege tower, made its way in here. You flip over one of these troll tiles that are awkwardly shaped like houses, but what you do is you then tuck it around the troll and it shows what you need to defeat him. In this case, 7 different hits. There's other trolls, well, you need 4 hits all in one go, or 5 hits in one go, or other combinations. Let's show them all at this point. 2 hits with 3 at a time, or 3 of 2 at a time. If you would put the 5th troll token on the board, you lose. That's how you run out of those. You have 4 trolls. You can have at most 4 trolls at a time in this digging area. You want 0 because you cannot dig while a troll is there. If you defeat the troll just goes away. That's the only benefit. So ideally, you stop the siege tower first. But to do that, you are going to need long-range weapons and be on a tower that can fire at the siege tower. All it takes is 1 hit. But we, over 2 games played on a review copy from Ludonova, had many misses because the crossbow appears only on 2 sides of the die, and we would roll 1 or 2 dice and nothing, and it would stay there, and then we get a troll. Starting in the 3rd level of the deck, you will have the catapult come out. And when the catapult comes out, again, it's going to come on one side of the fortress wherever you are sitting, and if it is still in front of you at the start of your turn, this is the step 0 that I mentioned earlier, then you flip over one of these crossbow cards. They are all randomized. They are numbered 1 to 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. I lose this. Oh, I had resources here. I was working on this. Oh, those resources go away. And this spot is permanently unusable. And a piece of gold goes at the same time. And if the 5th catapult card comes out, you might have already guessed, you will lose. So that is the 5th way to lose the game. If you run out of catapult cards, troll tokens, the deck, orcs, or gold, you're done. You lose the game. So this, of course, hurts or later, possibly because you have supplies built up here. We had one game where we almost had the crowbar, which is incredibly useful, and then it got wiped away. Too bad. Resources gone, all that time wasted. Nothing resolved. You could have the resources sitting here waiting for this thing to get claimed, and maybe you're waiting to go around the table to get to the right person to claim it, and it'll still be wiped away. All sorts of problems come up again and again. There's a quick overview of the Siege of Rundar, which I played twice so far in a review copy from Ludonova, both with 2 players. And while I would love to have played the game many more times with different player counts and have a wider range of experiences, Ludonova shipped the game in late August, and it sat in the US Customs from late August until early October. So thank you, USPS, for not doing a great job right now. But I can talk about those 2 games, both of which we lost. The first one by an incredibly wide margin. We went through all 50 orc cards, but by the time the last card came out, we had only just opened up the 3rd section of Tunnel, with those goblins there, we had so much more to go before we could possibly win. It was not even close. The second game, though, went much better for two reasons. One, you get an idea of what upgrades to focus on, because for the medium cost upgrades and the expensive upgrades, you need far more resources than you can get from your starting cards. So in the second game, we cycled through upgrades more. Every time that you are in the center of the board and you want to lay out cards, you can choose, if you want, to just throw away any of the upgrades that are already there. If any resources are on those cards, you return the resources to the middle. So possibly you don't want to do that. But we realized that we need to get more resources faster, and the way to do that is to find the right upgrades and make sure that we focus on them so that you can pay for those medium and expensive upgrade cards. You cannot reasonably get the red upgrade where it costs 8 resources by going and getting one and getting another one and one and one and one. That's just not going to cut it. You need to get them much faster, which means you need upgrades, and focus on that. You can focus too much on upgrades, though, because you have to throw a card out of your hand every time you get an upgrade. So ideally, you're replacing the right things and just having better resource production cards. But often those, especially that valuable crowbar one that we loved, gives you only resources. That's it. It's not a close range attack as well as resource. It's just resource. And then, of course, sometimes you won't even get that because it's in the 2 cards that you throw away each time you shuffle the deck. And so you need backup resource cards in addition to everything else. You want everything. You cannot have everything, but you want it. We ended up losing as well just because in that second game, we got so close. We had cleared all the tunnel. We had the goblins out there. We were getting down to the wire. The orcs were coming in. We had only 4 cards left in the deck. And my partner said they had 2 orcs in their hand. Like many cooperative games, you can talk about what's in your hand without revealing the actual cards, and that's just all facilitating conversation, planning ahead, talking about what strategizing you want to do, where should you be, where should I end at the end of the round to help you, should I refill the upgrades because you want to put something on there, and right now we had only 2 upgrades left. All sorts of talk goes on. So my teammate had 2 orc cards in their hand, so we were going to reveal 2 out of the 4 cards. I think we had only 1 gold left. There were orcs in the workshop, so if anything advanced, we lost. I forget whether we had the siege tower out or not. I think either the siege tower or catapult were out. And so if the siege tower or catapult is out and you draw one of those cards, then it goes off as well. So it goes off at the start of your turn. If it's in front of you, it came out on your turn, and then it's still in front of you by the time your turn comes back around. But it also goes off if you reveal another one of those cards from the deck. So we had a good chance that we were going to lose the game if their turn started. So I went to the middle and I rolled 3 dice, and I needed 3 hits on all 3 of those dice, and we would have won. Didn't even come close, because that's a 1 in 216 chance of happening. Nope, didn't happen. So possibly, if I had killed one of them, then my teammate could have, if the cards had flipped right. Possibly. So much possible. You see that possibilities, and you're just like, oh, we can do it again better next time. If we have better choices, what we're doing. Okay. Second thing we did better second time around was make better use of the mercenary cards, which I mentioned in passing but did not talk about in detail. Each of them, again, cost 2 gold, and they all have different powers. This one, for example, lets you immediately remove all the orcs in all 3 workshops in the fortress. And the starting cards came out so that the orcs came out very slowly, and then it'll advance, and we had 6 orcs at once in the workshops, and we're like, okay. We had been focusing on everything else because the orcs had piled up slowly, and then they all went on the wall at the same time. And we said, we don't need to do anything. We don't have to fight those orcs. Don't have to spend a moment thinking about them. Focus on resources and digging, because once they move into the middle here, boom, spend 2 gold, that card's done, all those orcs go away, and it's almost like starting over again, but with better tools, because we've already upgraded things. So the other mercenary cards. This one lets you ignore a catapult card. You just do not put it out. There's one that removes a troll in play. There is one that lets you ignore whatever last orc card you flip over. That can be critical. And there's one that kills a goblin. So, all different things to do. We made better use of those at the time when they were critical, and it seemed like sometimes you can just let the resources go away, let those orcs steal some gold, focus on this or that. But sometimes you just have to pull out the mercenary at the expense of 2 gold, which is the clock that you're running on. Almost got there. So close. We ran into some difficulties just because we don't know the orc deck well. And it's interesting, as I was going through setting up for this, I actually looked through the orc deck for the first time. And once you see the composition of it, I did not realize that Siege Towers don't even come out till the second part of the deck, the second group of 10 cards. And the number of Siege Towers in those second group of cards is important for the probability of how often you're going to draw one, which gives you how much time you might have. Because possibly I'm going to flip a Siege Tower and then you're going to flip one on your turn and it will go off immediately and send that troll in. So, do I have to tackle it immediately on that turn or not? You look in the third set of 10 cards. Well, that's when the catapults start. And there's Siege Tower as well, but not many. So then maybe you don't have to worry about it. Maybe if you draw it at the end of step 2, you can give yourself a little time and hope it doesn't go off while you focus on other things. So the more that you play the game, clearly the better you will be at planning ahead, or at least weighing probabilities for what's going to happen. We didn't look through the upgrade cards either. I prefer to play a game and just experience it right off without knowing every possible thing that's in each deck. We'll just see it through example. So after the first game, that's when we had the idea too to focus more on the resource cards once you see the cost of everything that's coming out at that high end. And typically when we were refilling from the supply, we might give 1 medium and 2 easy, or then a difficult and a medium and an easy. So you've got different range of things to work on, and it's not just the case where you have to pour all the resources into one thing and focus on that at the expense of everything else. You don't want that because, of course, certain cards will be buried every 2 turns and you won't have access to them. If you just don't get your metal access cards, you can't help build anything that needs metal. So don't go all in necessarily. You want to spread your resources around, except you can't spread far enough because of everything coming at you at once. So that's the kind of experience you want in a cooperative tower defense game, I would think. Maybe you agree or disagree. Hopefully you'll get to try it for yourself sometime without waiting so long to get your hands on a copy. Good luck.